For a few months in late 2021, I stayed at my grandparents' old house. They had passed away quite some time ago, and the house was still with the family. The house was used temporarily as a vacation house. But I needed to stay somewhere for a few months, and this was the perfect option. I wasn't too excited. The house was quite old and a bit janky. But not having to pay rent was a plus point. All this happened while I had been staying here for 2 months. I came back home from work at 6, parked my car in the driveway, and walked toward the mailbox. That's when a neighbor came toward me. She was an older woman, whom I had talked to a few times before. We had discussed my grandparents and my temporary stay. That morning, when she was walking in the neighborhood, she noticed some movement behind the house windows. When she didn't see my car, she got suspicious, because she was sure I was at work. I thanked her. But honestly, I didn't fully trust the story. She wasn't confident, and I thought maybe she misunderstood. After going inside the house, I quickly checked if there had been any break-in or movement. Nothing abnormal was there. No shoe prints on the floor either. The night started off quite normal, but weird and a little unsettling too. Then I made dinner and relaxed in the living room watching TV. It was Friday, so I had the next 2 days off. I probably stayed up past 1 a.m. During this time, I had completely forgotten about the neighbor's comment. The night seemed quite normal. But when it got so late, I turned off the TV and went upstairs toward the bedroom. In the morning, when the sun came in, it lit up the whole house. So I didn't use many lights. At night, the house was quite dark. I only turned on the bedroom lights when I changed out of my work clothes. I went up to the second floor using the creaky stairs. Then I entered the bedroom through the hallway. The room was also old, like the rest of the house. But it had 2 sections. One was the bed area, and a small hallway with a closet and built-in vanity desk. On the bathroom side, there was a large shower, bathtub, and lots of mirrors. It felt a little creepy. After using the bathroom, I came back to the bed area and turned off the lights. But immediately something felt off. One light was still on. I turned around and, in a second, my heart started racing. It was the vanity/closet hallway light between the bed and bathroom. It was an old single bulb hanging from the ceiling with a string. It only turns on off by pulling the string. I never used it, and it was impossible for it to turn on off accidentally. I went closer to the hallway and stared. A fuzzy bluish glow was slowly coming through the fogged glass. It looked decades old. Carefully, I pulled the string and turned the light off. The force required was such that it didn't click easily. The more I looked, the more nervous I felt. And I remembered the neighbor's comment. Maybe I should have left. But one thinks maybe it's just a fluke. Who knows, maybe the light turned on by itself. It was old anyway, maybe it wasn't working properly. And thinking of a break-in happening seemed almost impossible. You'd need proof for a 911 call. A single light being on was creepy. But not enough to completely freak out. Sleep wasn't coming now. I turned the bedroom lights on. Closed the door and sat on the bed on my phone. Kept thinking, maybe I'd get tired eventually. For the next 30 minutes, I kept looking repeatedly at the door and the bathroom hallway. It was paranoia taking over. Despite all kinds of excuses, my gut was telling me something was off. I had no idea what to do. I had already done a quick check of the house. But my mind told me maybe I should double check. I got up and opened the main hallway door upstairs. The house was eerily silent. Taking a few steps from the hallway, I went near the spare bedroom and opened the door. My grandparents' old bed and furniture were still there. And stacked boxes were along the wall. The moment I stepped into the room, I felt very unsettling. My purpose was to check the house, but as soon as I stepped in, my body locked up. My heart rate spiked. Like an alarm was going off inside, and my body was telling me to leave the room immediately. Then I saw, under the bed covers, there was some shape. Looking closely, I realized it was a body. Someone had hidden it under the bed covers. I panicked immediately and tried to step back. I stumbled a bit, and the wooden floor let out a loud creak. And then, the person in the bed sat up so quickly. It was clear they weren't sleeping. Maybe they had been hearing every move beforehand. It was a man. His eyes were directly on me, piercing and cold. I just saw that and ran out of the room. His footsteps were following me from behind. I didn't stop until I got out of the house and ran to the neighbor's doorstep. The same one who had talked to me before. She let me in and called for help. Officers came relatively quickly, which I was thankful for. But the intruder had probably fled immediately because he was already gone. The following week, my parents did an inventory check of the house. All valuables and important things were intact. Even if something was missing, it wasn't anything valuable. So the question was, why was he there? Many people think maybe he knew the house was empty, so he was secretly staying there. But the thing that terrifies me the most is that I had already been staying there for 2 months. So he knew I was present. Was it possible that he had been hiding there without me knowing? And if I hadn't found him and run, what would have happened? I moved out immediately and haven't gone back to the house since. Maybe I never will. I was returning from my road trip. Nothing special really. Just went to visit some relatives for a few days. I've never liked this drive. It's a 14-hour journey. Too long to comfortably finish in one day, but not quite long enough to justify a hotel stop, and split it into 2 days. I always force myself to finish it in one go, which completely killed the joy of the road trip. Anyway, I left my relative's house around 3 in the afternoon, so I was driving all night. Not a smart move. By 12 a.m., I was tired and sleepy. But this road didn't pass through any cities. Just barren forest highways or endless nothingness. Sometimes a couple of gas stations. And maybe some dirt roads leading somewhere unknown. I thought, whenever I got the chance, I'd stop and grab something. Anything to keep me awake. Coffee, an energy drink, literally anything. A little further ahead, I saw a small gas station, hidden among the trees on the side of the highway. It looked like a local one. Maybe there was a small town behind it. But the trees covered everything. There were no streetlights on the road leading past the gas station either. When I pulled in, the gas station felt strange. It wasn't like the modern ones with a giant overhang. Just a few pumps out in the open, with no lights around them. Even inside the building, there were no lights on. I thought, if there hadn't been 3 to 4 other cars in the parking lot, I would have assumed it was closed or abandoned. It looked like a typical old-school gas station, on the side of a barren highway, with some other customers there. But there still wasn't as much light as there should have been. I figured, since others were there, it must be open. I parked near those cars and walked to the door. When I opened it, 4 to 5 people standing inside immediately turned to look at me. Not just a casual glance. They all shifted at once and stared. Their eyes locked directly onto me. The men's faces were rugged and emotionless. But that's all I really saw, because their stares caught me completely off guard. Inside was incredibly dark and empty. The shelves were still standing, but there was nothing on them. Even after looking away, I could still feel their eyes locked on me, like I didn't belong there at all. The whole thing lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then I stepped back, shut the door, and quickly hurried to my car. I had no idea what that was. It felt like I had unknowingly walked into some strange cult gathering at an abandoned gas station. I got back on the road. Told myself maybe it was one of those things you just don't think about and keep moving. 10 minutes later, I accepted that I might never know what exactly I had walked into. So I kept searching for another gas station. Hopefully one that was open and safe. The empty road wasn't promising. Another 10 minutes passed when headlights appeared behind me. I was already driving relatively fast, maybe 10 to 15 over the speed limit. And since there had been no other cars for hours, this was the first one to show up behind me. Then more headlights. Maybe one more car, maybe several. I couldn't tell clearly. All the lights blended together. But they were definitely coming fast. I moved to the right lane to let them pass. The first car sped ahead, but then immediately merged right in front of me. I started slowing down, but I did not expect them to suddenly slam their brakes. My heart nearly stopped. I hit my brakes hard, swerving slightly to avoid a crash. I stopped just a few feet from their bumper, and then everything became clear. These were the same cars I had seen at the gas station. I checked the mirror. Another car stopped behind me, and a third pulled up to the side. Within seconds, multiple men got out and started surrounding my vehicle. If this had been daytime, or on a populated road, I might have tried something safer. But it was 1 a.m. on a desolate highway with no one else around. The only option I had was to risk an escape. The cars were blocking the road from every side, so I swerved off the highway and drove straight into the trees. I didn't go too far in, then grabbed my phone and ran out of the car. I kept running into the forest. It was pitch black. Just 30 feet in and you couldn't see anything. I ran as fast as I could, hearing the footsteps of the men behind me. But the deeper I went, it seemed like they didn't follow. I sat down against a tree and waited. Maybe an hour. I kept my phone off, terrified the glow of the screen would give me away. I just sat there in silence, staring into the pitch black woods and listening to every rustle of the leaves. After an hour, I finally pulled out my phone, used a map to get back to the road, and once I had signal, I texted 911. All the cars were gone. Only mine was still there, pulled halfway into the trees at the side of the road. Later that night, I had a tow truck pull it out. And surprisingly, the car had almost no damage. The men who chased me and tried to stop me, there's never been any update on them. I can't help but think they believed I saw something inside that gas station I wasn't supposed to see, and that's why they chased me. Maybe planning to kidnap me or silence me in that secluded forest. The moment I walked into that gas station and all those men turned to stare at me, that image is still burned into my mind. I still think about what could have happened, and it haunts me to this day.